What's up, guys? Here we are, Monster Motivator number 45. I know it's hard to believe. I can't believe we're at 45. We are approaching 50, and we'll be sharing that video again. Number 50, we're turning the tables, right? You're going to ask me the questions. I'm on the hot seat. Who is the Monster Motivator? So, episode number 50, don't miss it. We are going to promote the heck out of it. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm going to be with my man, Danny Bedford, that kid that makes the excuses go away. That's the kid that has the cerebral palsy and just keeps making it happen. I love that kid. He's in my heart. So, Monster Motivator 45. We are at a chiropractor's office in San Marcos, and I'm going to share a little bit of who they are, and they're going to share where they came from, where they're at today, and where they see themselves going. And as always, I'm going to check my phone for comments, so you don't think that I'm texting my cousins while they're talking. You know I wouldn't do that. And if you have any questions, send them in. If we don't answer them live, Aaron will follow up and connect with you once we jump off. But
Absolutely.
I think we might be able to field these and any comments that come in. People are already jumping on, as you can see.
Yeah.
So I am here with Aaron and Veronica, right? Aaron Garcia, Veronica Mendez, and entrepreneurs. How long have you been an entrepreneur?
We've been entrepreneurs for the last 5-6 years.
5 or 6 years, okay. And you have this facility. I'll let you introduce yourself. Tell everyone who you are, kind of where you came from and how you got here, and we'll just move along. And same with Veronica. So Aaron, jump in. Who are you, and how did you get here?
Well, my name is Dr. Aaron Garcia. I am a chiropractor by trade.
Okay.
I started my practice back in 2009. I started actually working out in a holistic wellness hospital in Rosarito, Mexico.
Oh, wow.
For about 2.5 years, I worked down there and got a chance to learn from many different healthcare practitioners, from biological dentists, psychologists I worked with, nutritionists, medical doctors, and we all worked together as a team to understand, the true aspect of what creates health problems for people.
Okay.
So I really got to see the full big picture of what really creates health challenges for everybody. And
Well, let's do this, right? Because I like to go to the very beginning. So how did you get involved in the healthcare to that level? Where was that passion coming from?
it started, I think, just after high school. Right after graduated, I got a job as a personal trainer.
Okay.
So I worked in the fitness field for about 6 years, and probably my second semester of college, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, whether it's physical therapy, chiropractic.
You knew it was in that world, though.
It was in that world, and I met a chiropractor. He adjusted me. I just said, hey, what do I have to do to learn what you do? And he gave me the steps I needed to do, and I followed that to the T. And 10 years later, there I was.
Wow. Okay, so it's been a 10-year run.
It was a 10-year
right?
run.
I love that. Everyone's like, overnight success. Yeah, 10 years, right? But so you knew you were going to be in that world. Were you an athlete before that? What made you get into personal training?
Yeah, I mean, in high school I did football, wrestling. That's kind of my background.
Okay.
And I think I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do afterwards. And I love working out at the gym. And I saw one of the trainers say, "Hey, what do I got to do?" Same concept.
Yeah.
To get a job here, and they showed me the steps. I went through all the training. I really sucked it in, and I loved the anatomy. I loved learning about the human body, how it moved, and how it functioned. And so I just learned a lot in that 6-year process. And then it just added to my education as a chiropractor going through school.
Yeah, it just was such a fit. So Veronica, how did you get here? What's your original story?
Well, I trained as a Reiki master, and that's working with energy.
Okay.
Just until recently, like when I started doing the Reiki, I found out that I'm able to feel people physically. So
What does that mean?
when I'm working on them and something's going on with their kidneys, my kidney will start to hurt.
Wow.
So then I'll ask, is there anything going on with your kidneys? And yeah, a lot of times it's accurate.
Or maybe sometimes they don't even know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow. Where do you think that comes from?
When I was 3, I had a near-death experience, and I think I was kind of in and out of consciousness,
Yeah.
so I think I got more connected to spirit or the higher.
Did you see the light? Like, did you see the other side that you believe?
Well, what I remember, because I was 3, so it was.
That's right, yeah.
I do remember bits and pieces. I remember I wasn't scared. It was like almost like a comforting,
peace,
warm feeling. But I came back, and as I got older is when I understood it more. When I was younger, I went through depression because my home life wasn't the best. My father was physically abusive, you know, to my mom, to us. So we, you know, raised in that environment wasn't so happy, I should say.
Yeah, it wasn't ideal.
Yeah, so I was feeling my mom's depression and all that, but until I got older, I was able to distinguish what was mine and what was other people's.
Oh,
But
wow.
I went through, I had to work on myself first and release all the, you know, the emotions that get stuck in the body.
It's all the toxins.
Yeah.
But you believe it really originated from that near-death experience?
I think so, yeah.
Wow, and it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And everyone that I talked to that had, because we were at the Thrive Talks, we all spoke there, and Aaron Kirkaby, I don't know if you saw his talk, but he, you know, same thing, he saw the other side and explained it the same way you did, where you come back and you're just, you know, you just look at things so different. The fear is almost gone of so many things that we fear that haven't seen the other side.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
So like fear of dying, like I'm not afraid to die because I know there's life after death.
Right, and it puts little things here in much more perspective. I remember seeing a show on PBS with Wayne Dyer, and he had a lady on, same thing, and she used to live her life in so much fear, just neurotic, right? When she had that near-death experience, she came back and her whole world was completely changed, and the difference in her face, everything, just so sure. I guess that's the best way to put it. So where did you, actually Aaron, where did you grow up?
So I originally grew up in Moreno Valley,
Okay.
which is not too far from Temecula in Riverside County.
Right.
And did all my schooling up in Orange County. So I went to Cal State Fullerton, and then all my other schooling went pretty much up there in Orange County, Whittier. That's where I did everything. And then eventually we just gravitated here towards San Diego.
Okay, good.
Much cooler out here.
Oh, listen, I'm from Jersey. This is paradise. This is absolutely paradise. But the congestion's wild. I went up to LA yesterday. I left at 6 o'clock in the morning and got there at 9:30 in the morning. So I thought, you know, I was back in Manhattan. Right? It was just craziness. So, you're actually, did both of you always want to be an entrepreneur? How long have you actually been an entrepreneur on your own?
I've been an entrepreneur since I was like 8 years old.
All right, now we gotta hear this. Now we gotta hear this, right? Let's get comfortable here. Now you're in my world. Let's really 8 years old. So expand on that.
Well, I would always save my money, so I figured, how can I turn this into more money? So I had my parents take me to Costco, or back then it was I forgot what, a Price Club.
Okay.
And I bought boxes of candy, and I would sell them to my brother's friends. And in my parents' garage, I made like a little store. Yeah. And I'm pretty handy. I actually put the floors here in our office.
Wow.
And
you did an awesome job.
That's awesome.
And that's kind of
just you do what you got to do, right? That's the DNA of an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So you wanted to turn some money into more money, which is another DNA of an entrepreneur. Yeah. So give us that whole transition, you know, the whole building blocks here.
Well, it's you really have to think about where you're going to invest your money, and not just throw it to the first thing that comes along, and do your research. Because if you don't do your research, then
but even at that young, did you have that insight?
I would calculate the numbers. Okay, how much does this box cost? How much money can I make per candy bar?
I love it. Wow.
Yeah.
Really? So you just broke all the numbers down?
Yeah.
What was your next business? How did all this transition?
I started a cake business, which I still do cakes.
Okay.
It's Veronica's Goodies is the name of the business, and I started that in 2009.
Okay.
I was a stay-at-home mom, and I was at home watching TV, those cake shows, and I said I could do that because I'm very artistic.
Right.
So I took a little class on how to roll the fondant. It's like a modeling.
I saw the cake boss. How they do that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the type of work I do, and it just came to me. I know how to do this, and I think again that connection.
Right.
because I could do a lot of stuff just by watching, and I figured it out.
So you still have
I
that
still
business?
have that cake business.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now what? Let's keep going with this.
Well, with the cake business, I'm actually trying to slow down a little because the work we do together, I know it could help a lot more people.
Did you have more passion for that?
I do,
You do?
because I think I've always been somewhat of a healer. Like when people had problems, they always tend to gravitate towards me, and me just talking to them, I think it kind of puts them at ease.
I think too, it sounds like what I'm getting too is people always want to know how do you define happiness, right? And I just say it's fulfillment. When you're fulfilled, you're happy, right? That's why if you see people with a lot of money, a lot of success on one end, but they're not happy, they're just not fulfilled.
Yeah.
So I would probably think that the cakes aren't fulfilling like they are like what you're doing now. Would that be pretty accurate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I found myself staying up late.
Okay.
One time I stood up for like 36 hours straight just because I had a deadline.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do what I have to do.
I mean, that's an entrepreneur. I mean, you can't escape it. I mean, you were born to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So, Aaron, when did you decide that you wanted to actually be on your own and do this crazy dance as an entrepreneur?
I think I figured it out when I was in chiropractic school.
Okay.
And I always worked in corporate, again, working at the gyms, and it never really fit me. I didn't really enjoy it too much, and I always thought, well, I just run my own gym and do it that way, but I just didn't have the capital to do it. And when I graduated school, I was always trying to figure out, well, how do I start my own business? But again, didn't have the capital, so I went and got the job at the hospital. That's why I was able to save up some money. And in my heart, I always knew I wanted to run my own practice because I want to do my own thing. I didn't want to run through anybody else's rule because I felt there was another way to do it.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't just follow someone else's orders because I saw in clinics that this isn't my idea of what healthcare should be.
Right.
And then here's my knowledge of what I've learned, so I want to take that and do it in my own way.
Right, because as an entrepreneur, our way is always the best way.
Yeah, always.
Right? Always, man. It's just the way it is, right? And also, I have to imagine, because you saw so much of the medicine and the masking of the issues, and what I know myself, being treated by sports chiropractors for years now, is it gets to the core. The bottom line, it's not masking anything, it's actually readjusting. And, I had a chiropractor back east that saved my life, and I became his biggest fan. I mean, I literally walked into his office on Good Friday, 90 degrees.
Oh, wow.
After 2 sessions, by Monday I was working out again, and then I would just go to him weekly. I mean, that was my first time ever at a chiropractor. I am like, man, Dr. Mancini, don't go anywhere. I need you. But I'm a big fan of that, and also acupuncture. Yeah, absolutely, acupuncture for sure. So, did you grow up in an entrepreneurial environment? Where do you think the foundation came from? Because there is a lot of times it does matter, what you see. You happen to see the real higher power, right? That's a real foundation. But did you have anybody around you that's been an entrepreneur?
Actually, no. I always tend to do things different than anybody else. I was the youngest of 4 children, and I have 3 older sisters, so I was the only boy in the family. Okay. My mom worked at the grocery stores most of her life and was still good at paying jobs at the time. And then my dad worked at Union Bank, and he was more of the management. He was the vice president in the auto sales department. Okay. So I did get a little bit of his work behavior. He's more of that type A personality, where I'm more of, I like to feel, I like to kind of do things. I got a little creative, but I wasn't more like, I got to push. And I think now that I know this and the work that we do, what I wanted to do was always trying to prove, and I wanted to do something better. I think as the youngest child, I wanted to be the one to stand out. So, all right, that's good. So I think that always drove me to do something better, take the best classes, and go to higher schools. And I think eventually, with the work that we start to do now, is more on the emotional aspect. And I realized that, I did all that to prove and to be somebody who's like, look, I want people like, I made it, look at me, I'm a success. But I realized that it wasn't my true passion. And as we talk about fulfillment, but it was a blessing in disguise because it led me into a path to finally be where we're at today. And going through all the healthcare, I understood one major aspect why people were coming in for me for the things that they came in for. And part of that I discovered was a lot of the stress that they were going through in their lives. You know, their financial stresses, stresses in the relationship, problems, the stuff that they hold on to from such a young childhood that still translates into today, and their whole physiology starts to change, and next thing you know, their back would go out, or they had digestive problems that they're coming in for. And I didn't understand why they weren't getting any better, and so I started really digging deeper and realized that this is what's going on in their life. And I learned different techniques in the chiropractic world that help to address that aspect.
Wow.
And that's where Veronica and I eventually got together, because she would sit into my appointments and just kind of take notes or just hang out.
Well, I was on the computer doing work, like filling out paperwork, and I would start feeling the emotions of the person. So I would start crying, and then he'd look at me, and then I would point, I go, it's them, it's not me. So then, like, less than a minute, they're crying. So it would, I felt their emotions come up before they did. And it's that fast.
And it's like, and stick with me here, right?
Okay.
It's like how you can train a dog to know when their master is going to have a seizure or a seizure. They'll actually lay on them over top of them because they feel that energy, right? Before we do, right? So that's an amazing gift, because you know, it's like that big tsunami that happened years ago. You know, they said most of the animals were gone 2 weeks ago. You know, the humans are on the beach, just, you know, we're so out of tune to nature, right? We're so out of tune to nature. So that's an amazing gift. I mean, and you believe that all came from? Wow, that's
because I'm very sensitive to lights. Like when I go down Home Depot, the aisle that has all the lights and everything. As soon as I'm walking down that aisle, I get really dizzy. Like, I have to like hurry up and get out of there. And I could be at the store, and if I'm not protecting myself, I have to protect my own energy. Otherwise, if someone walks by me with some heavy stuff, I'll just start breaking down, like crying.
How do you protect yourself?
It's very much like intention or visualizing like the white light around you, and just go in with the intention, okay, I'm going to go in, I'm going to feel great, and setting that positive mindset also. And then just grounding myself before going in.
And it's such a great idea for everyone. Right? It's that intention, setting your intention for the day. You know, I kind of call it like, instead of being the buoy in the ocean, right? Control your day. So your day doesn't control you. So you actually do that on a consistent basis.
I have to. Otherwise, I'd be drained. My energy would be drained.
That is interesting. So, are you guys partners in the business? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what that means is we decided to team up and actually do a team approach when people would come in, because she would help me find things that I wasn't looking for. Or she would feel something, she'd be like, check this. I'm like, there it is.
Wow.
And
so it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. I mean, that's huge. I mean, that is really really neat. So, being an entrepreneur, would you guys do anything different? I mean, would you ever not want to be an entrepreneur? Would you?
No.
Okay. That's what I say.
You can't go back.
Yeah. Once you just can't.
I don't think we like people telling us what to do.
That's it. That's it. Our way is the best way. So, right?
There was a time when you know things weren't doing so well, and we hit our breaking points. I think all entrepreneurs do. I think it's a badge of honor when it happens. You know, people are always telling you, well, you know, it's not working. Go get another job so you can make some money. And in the mindset that I was at, I would actually go look and see what opportunities are there. And when I was looking at how much they're going to have you work and how much they're going to pay you for a full 40 hours a week, like I can do that in 2 days if I just put a little effort into it. And I couldn't.
So let's talk about that, right? Because there's people that are in that position, or are going to find themselves in that position. I always say, just drown out the outside noise, right? When you listen to your gut feeling, your intuition, your GPS, I call your inner GPS, you'll know. It's just you have the courage to move forward and listen to that inner GPS. So you guys went through that, like we all have, right? Where if they don't think you're crazy, then you're really not considered an entrepreneur. Right? That's part of the badge of honor, right? So what did you do? How did you drown that out? How did you keep moving forward?
Well, a lot of it is, again, the work that we do. We work on each other all the time. You know,
Okay.
we are, you know, we are the product. And so the techniques that we use is really to help identify a lot of the emotional stuff that comes up when we're going through these phases, whether it's fear, frustration, and we can identify, why does this come up? Why do I feel this way? What stops a person from doing what they say they want to do, but then they self-sabotage that? Because there's some type of internal block in there based on past experiences that they had, where maybe it wasn't a great experience, and if they didn't allow that emotion that they're going through at that time to process properly, then it gets trapped. And it stays in there, and it goes unnoticed until something triggers it that brings up that same scenario again, and it's like their whole physiology starts to change. I said they're right back in that moment again, and this could be something that happened when they were 5, and when they were junior high, high school, and it re-triggers that emotion, and we don't like that feeling, so then we either fight or we retreat.
Yes.
And most people, when that starts to come up, it's their stuff that's coming up. So when I was going through my experience, it was my stuff that was coming up, and I had to work in getting a lot of that emotion out so my brain can calm down and say, like, you know, it's not as bad as I made it in here. And I think when a lot of entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurism brings out all your insecurities.
Oh,
Don't do that.
It is I always tell people, it is a lonely, dark existence for a long time, because you're on an island, right? You're on an island. So you actually help people get through some of those barriers in what you do.
Yeah.
Okay.
So because we decided to focus more on that, because once we started working on that aspect, all the physical stuff that people came in for, you know, started getting better, and I had to do less effort to get them better. So we said, well, why don't we help people who are struggling in their relationships? Let's help them in their business or career, because this is what's creating all their health issues, because of all the stress that they're accumulating.
Okay.
And when people have been able to release all that, you know, they tell us that they feel freer, liberated, like they can be themselves again.
Really?
Yeah.
And how many sessions? Does it depend on the person and what their issues are, as far as the amount of sessions, or?
Yeah, and some we can break down their heaviest stuff within the first 1 to 2 sessions. You know, we started to work with at least a month, you know, 1 session a week, to work with people to really get to the core of their stuff that's going on.
Okay.
And we can really, in a matter of minutes, find out what their block is.
Wow.
Based on the testing that we do.
And most of the time it goes back to childhood, because that's when all the beliefs and things start getting ingrained.
Absolutely, because their subconscious is open like a sponge.
Yeah.
So that becomes our story, right? What you tell them, they believe.
Yeah.
Right. So and you had a rough childhood, so you had to get all that toxin out, because it's what it was, right? It was poison.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And the other thing, I just did this in the workshop, is one of the things that people seem to do is blame their parents or blame whoever raised them. And what I know is they can, right or wrong, right, good or bad, they can only do and work to their own level of awareness. So they only could do what they knew, right? No, I'm not giving them the green light that was okay, but the reality is we can only work to our own level of awareness, where we can build it up, we can tear it down, but we can't outperform it. You know, so that kind of takes the pressure off of people, or at least gives them a reasoning, right? Why was my childhood so bad? But then on the flip side, that's also what builds your character and what makes you who you are, versus that real easy road. You know, I believe. You know, I say life gives us the boot camps. And it wants to know what we're made of, right? And entrepreneurs, we just seem that we love that torture. We love that.
And at such a young age, where many people are not taught how to deal with their emotion. I think it's a very important thing for people to work on, because we're taught, you know, suck it up, don't be sissy, you know, don't cry or give you something to cry about.
Especially a guy.
Especially men.
And I'm from the East Coast, and it's like magnified, right? Be a man, right? What are you crying for? Exactly. I heard that. I'll give you something to cry about, and I always got something to cry about, you know, because and then you start to feel guilty. You don't want to feel weak, right? As a man, so sharing your feelings is, man, that is a chore for us, brother. Huh? That's a chore.
We were at our parents' house a few months ago, and they got termites. They were telling us, and the guys came on down. They opened up the floorboards and showed all the little damage that the termites were doing. I thought it was a great analogy, because I looked at emotions are like termites. they go undetected for years if you're not paying attention to it.
Okay.
And if they're not dealt with properly, they can create so much damage, and before you know it,
I love that.
you know,
I love
it can
that.
create either failure in your business, relationship problems, maybe you're failure in your marriage.
I love that.
But at the same time, it can also really put down your health.
You know what? Let's even add to that, right? Here's what came to me. That's a great analogy. I love that. And how do you make them disappear? Once you turn the lights on, they disappear, right? Because they don't want to be in the light. So once you turn that light on of what it really is, identifying it, they disappear.
Yeah.
Man, that's awesome. I love that.
And if people can't get them to disappear, then we're like the exterminators that come in and really get rid of it.
Yeah, for real. Yeah. So they're not just hiding.
Exactly.
Right? Because when you turn that light on, they're just going to go behind the cabinet. You guys are going to pull them away from that cabinet.
Yeah.
I love that because it gives us a visual, right? And we think in pictures.
Yep.
So we have some people jumping in here. You guys are bringing the heat. Reed Cox, what about athletes? Current or retired, do you specialize in any specific sports rehab?
Specific sports rehab, not necessarily, but we do get a lot of athletes in here. You know, biggest thing I look at when I'm working chiropractic patients is I do a lot of muscle balancing, and I find out, one, if they're having an injury, if it's a recurrent injury, is which muscles are not doing their job, because everybody has to work together. And if one muscle's off, then what's going to happen is you get other muscles that tend to overcompensate, and doing that over time, if they're a runner or a skater, I get that, I get it constantly, and then they injure themselves and realizing, well, I've been doing this all the time, why did they injure now? And then again, what we've been talking about is what are their factors involved? Did they eat something wrong? Did they, you know, again, are they under a lot of stress when they're going through their activity, their workout? It's the same thing that's going on, but they're in their head too much, and their body actually starts to shut down, and then eventually they injure themselves because the muscles go out of balance. And this is really what I work on a lot when it comes to athletes or anybody who comes to see us. Is let's look deeper on what's going on. But if they're gonna do like more rehab stuff, I leave that to either chiropractors that want to do more rehab or physical therapists. You know, I love them. Everybody has their place, and so we do more. Let's figure out why the body's not functioning right, and then we can do the rest of the stuff afterwards.
Right, but you guys really start with the mind.
Yeah.
Right. Where does this? And it all generates from up here.
Yeah.
All generates.
And in
from
sports,
up here.
it's all mind game.
Oh, it's luck, right?
Yeah.
It's all mind. Right. Alan Dukes, great guy for you guys to hook up with. Holistic approach of mind, body, and spirit. This is an awesome gift. He's loving it. Lori, great girl. Hi, Aaron and Veronica, she said. So you guys are going to jump on after and connect with them. Brady J, he says, some beautiful peeps there, Dave. Absolutely great people. So where do you see yourself going with this journey, with this office here?
I'm gonna let you talk.
All right.
What we envision is doing more public speaking and just getting the word out to people that, you know, expressing your emotion is okay, but in a healthy way, not when people get angry, start throwing things. That's not healthy.
No.
So, and just be more in tune with themselves, because I think everybody is too busy. Like their mind is just taken up by phones, by you know, everything that's going on around us, trying to do 5 things at once, and they're losing that connection, you know, that mind-body connection. So if they spent, you know, at least start with 10 minutes a day meditating and really connecting with source, all your answers are there.
And you know, let's even expand on that because I realized a while ago that I love motion therapy. I'm in motion. When I'm in motion, I'm in my zen. Right, the gym is my zen. A lot of times I'll do little short videos right after the gym in the parking lot because that's what it opened everything up for me. Or when I'm driving, and I love that motion, walking. That motion therapy for me is just, I love it. So it doesn't have to be, when you say meditation, right? A lot of people think Indian style, right? So let's expand on that, because a lot of people have that misconception, because I did years ago. Right? I said, I can't do that. So you know, you automatically they think that they can't meditate, but that's not true. So you guys want to expand on that a little bit, and what does meditation really mean?
You know, it's something that I'm exploring more. She's brought more of that energy side to me. I was more just science and go all out, but then she's really kind of opened me up more to different aspects. And when I started meditating, I couldn't do it in 5 minutes. My brain and my thoughts were just like this, and you're trying to sit there and keep your eyes closed and not think about anything. That's hard if you're in like 5 places at one time. But it's just like anything else. Like it's building a muscle. It's just like working out. And the more I started to do that, the more I was actually to calm my brain down and actually start to really just put an attention. Okay, what do I want to know today? I mean, I throw out a question like, what can I be more successful with? How can I be more of service to people?
Okay.
And then I would really just push everything away, and the answer would just come to me. And sometimes what you have to do is, if you're in a place where you're distracted, like at home, unless you're really good at that, sometimes it's good for us to just go out to some place where you can really be with nature. Some people like the water. We love the woods. We'll go out here to Elfin Forest and find a quiet little spot with water running. Just get grounded. Yeah, that's our zen.
Okay.
Just like yours is the gym. Everybody has their place, and you need to find out what place is that allows you to focus the best.
Yeah, and again, it all, to me, it always goes back to that motion therapy. When I'm walking my dog, I'm just in that zone. I'm in Fallbrook, so it's real quiet.
Yeah.
And I'm just in that zone. And interesting for me, right? I think you guys will find this interesting. I was at a 3-day event a few years ago, and it's a friend of mine, DC Cordova, and she puts on the Money in You event, and she's a good friend of mine. So I did her event, and part of this was so intense, right? And Saturday night is the longest. You're there till like 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. Now I don't want to give a lot up if somebody wants to do this event because it'll take away from their experience. But here's, at the end of the day, they put you in groups and you have to do these things and these exercises. Well, we were in these groups and we all made a pact and we said, if we get stuck mentally, right, we take a break. But your time, so you want to win, so your time, so it's that struggle. And I hit this block and my head was just pounding. I just couldn't, I hit a block. Everyone seemed to be hitting that block at the same time, so we said, we're going to take a break. Now we're in this big room, right? This big auditorium room. I leave the room and one of the guys comes with me. We use the men's room. I'm literally standing next to him at the urinal and I would go, I got it! This is, my head just completely cleared because I left that energy, right? I left that energy, and I kind of relate that back to when I was in school, because I did horrible in school, right? I never could pay attention and all that. And in that classroom, I had that same feeling, right? That squeezing, that intense, why can't I get this? Why can't I get this? And then all of a sudden, you're never going to get it because you're beating yourself up, right? Once I left that room, it opened right up. So you see that? I mean, does that make sense to you guys from what you've seen?
Yeah.
I get it myself.
Probably brought you back to when you were in school doing horrible, so it's that same feeling of being in the
and I
classroom.
was always in trouble, so they throw me out in the hallway anyway. So, you know, that's where my comfort zone was. So, but it completely, within seconds, just opened up for me. Does that?
Yeah, and so that, what we help people is that, so that doesn't come back again, is we take people back to those old experiences that may have been forgotten.
Okay.
And we put them right back into that experience again.
Just so, and then what does that do?
And what that does, it brings up the emotional charge again.
All right, guys, we're back. We are bringing the heat. We always seem to shut down the internet when we're getting into the juicy part. So I wanted to share that with you because I'm sure you've seen it a lot, and it just goes back to, you know, like you said, as a kid, the things that you experienced, the things that you remember, and that's what you either take. I say it's either your propeller or your anchor, right? You got to decide what that is. So is there anything that I didn't talk about that you guys want to share with people, whether it's entrepreneur, whether it's what you do, or anything that you want to share?
You have anything first and I'll go?
I think when, you know, like when you have a job or you're starting a business, always do what you love. Because if you're working somewhere and you hate going to work, why be miserable? I mean, you could, you know, either work in a field or area that you like or love, or start a business doing something you love.
Right, and you know, a lot of people, they're going to say, well, that's great, but I can't make money in what I love. But you don't know two things. I always say you don't know that until you explore it, right? And because the time we live in now, anything is nothing's impossible, honestly, to make a living at, right? And you have to, depends on how bad you want it, right? If you have to work that 9 to 5, come home, eat dinner, and work from 7 to 1 o'clock in the morning, then that's what you have to do until you can get to that point to where you can leave that job. Yeah. So again, I know once you say that, right, do what you love, the excuses start flowing, right? So we want to cut those excuses right now, cut them at the cord. Listen, there's always a way to figure it out. And here's what I say, is your why big enough? Because if your why is big enough, you'll find a way. If it's not, you're going to find an excuse. You know, but doing what you love is so important, because we have such a short ride, right? If we live a full life, 80, 90 years old, it is still gone like that. You know, if we're lucky enough to have a healthy life. You know, so why waste it? Because it's our biggest commodity. So I love that. I mean, so it's so important.
And that's why we started doing this work, because we found we were so good at it, and we love helping people with this. It's like taking health and personal development and putting it all together. So that's what we found what our passion and talent was. And if people are on that verge of, well, can I do what I love? And you mentioned it is, I don't know if I can do that. That's their stuff that comes up. And we found that your words are so powerful. What do you tell yourself on a day-to-day basis? You say, I can't do this, and why not? And a lot of times there's a underlying belief system. You know, if I put myself out there, then I might be judged or I might be ridiculed, and I don't want to have that experience, so I'm just not going to do that anyway. And maybe people are telling you at such a young age that you'll never succeed or make it. Some people, you know, push through that, but a lot of people, it puts them down for such a long time. And we work with people that are in their 50s and 60s who are just now getting rid of a lot of that because of their upbringing.
Because they're so used to just putting it under the mat, right? Just hide it. Just hide it, and it'll go away. Right, it'll go away. So you guys are actually pulling that out, peeling those layers off, right? And I call self-talk the game changer. That is the game changer, right? What are you telling yourself on a daily basis? Because it is so vital. What do you tell yourself, right? And I always share with people that one of my mentors had me read a book, thank God, about 12 years ago called "What to Say to Yourself." What you say when you talk to yourself by Dr. Shad Helmstetter absolutely changed my life. And I know that's a cliche line, but it really did. And I still utilize what I learned from that today, every single day, with the affirmations in my own name. I mean, my own voice on my phone while I'm at the gym. And it just reinforces that positive, like kind of a lot like when you put that shield around you, right? The intention. You set that intention. It's absolutely personal development. What you guys do is personal development, right? I think the other part shows itself, and you know how to fix that as well. But it absolutely is personal development, and I'm such a big fan of it because it's changed my life. But also, what a lot of people, and you tell me if you agree, is personal development really is like physical development. You can't do it once a day. Once a week, once a month, and expect results, right? You have to implement this in your life.
That's what we see. If you know those people that go to all these motivational seminars and they think that after this, then I'm going to make it big. This is it. This is going to change it. I've been there.
Right.
And it makes a little headway, but then again, if you don't get rid of all your stuff that's been ingrained, it's temporary until something breaks you back down again and you're not in that environment. So if you're having a hard time with that, then again, that resistance is your stuff coming up. And you made a great point, is you read a book that really helped you stay in the mental focus. And so that helps me too, is, you know, even when you're doing a lot of personal development, you're working yourself, you always have to keep doing it. It never stops. It never stops.
Never.
And so that reading, I found, has really been beneficial for me. And usually when I'm in the right space, the right book shows itself.
Yes.
I was in a very bad funk about a year or so ago, and she had to watch me go through something, all like just being crabby, and she walks in, grabs a book, and she says, "Here, read this," and slammed it right on the table. And it just so happened to be Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill.
Wow.
And that book really snapped me out of the funk, because it really helps you when you're in that. It was in its low time, and like, how did he get out of it? He really just had a heart to heart of how to get into that, out of that negative mindset.
Yes.
And take control back in your mind, and that's what I love. What we do is it's helping people take control of what's going up in here,
right?
Not all the external stuff.
And see, I'm glad you brought that up, because two things. I just did a video on this the other day because I got tired of hearing people, you know, you hear all the time. I'm on social media everywhere. I'm in this funk and I can't get out. And for me, it's really simple, just not always easy. Here's the deal. I say, here's the deal. Get yourself out of your own bubble. Get yourself out of your world. So if you feel like you're in a funk, you feel like you can't go anywhere, you feel like the life is against you, go to a children's hospital. Watch a 12-year-old little girl fighting for her life for cancer and her family, right, trying to get through it. Or go to a convalescent home when the time is ticking and they can't get that time back, right? And they say how lucky you are to be at your age, because that changes perspective, that changes mindset if you allow it. But you have to get out of that bubble, and I think that's the simplest way and most effective way to do it. But I'm glad that you brought up Napoleon Hill, because I also make this point very, very clear in my talks and in my workshops and on Monster Motivator TV. I tell everyone all the time, if anybody in the personal development, self-help world says that they invented something new, run, don't look back. This goes back to antiquity, right? Yeah. This goes back to the beginning of time. It's just what flavor do you connect with? I have a certain flavor. Some people might hate it, some might like it. It's not my job, I just present it, right? And same with you, right? Exactly. There's going to be people that connect with you versus me. That's okay, right? As long as you're being real. So I love that you brought up Napoleon Hill, because that was really, to me, is the godfather of personal development that we know, right? That we know. What did that do? How did that change your life? What were some of the things that jumped out at you?
Well, if you ever read the book, I won't spoil it, but it's
but give them the title again.
Well, it's called Outwitting the Devil, and it was a book that was hidden for like 70 years after Think and Grow Rich came out, and it talks about when Napoleon Hill during the Great Depression went through his downtime, when like he got in his own funk and he couldn't get out of it, and he was talking about how can I be this person of personal development, teaching people how to succeed, and I can't even find my passion, and I'm sitting here in my brother-in-law's basement, and I'm hiding.
Right. Napoleon Hill.
Right? So we all go through it, and one day he discovered his other self, the person that finally just took charge, and he sits in this with his typewriter, and it's like he's having this interview with what he visualized as the devil. And the first thing that it said is, what is your physical form? And it says, well, I'm not this pitchfork person with horns. It's like, I am the negative energy. I'm the negative part of the atom, and I fill in the negative mind space, the empty spaces of the human mind. If you let me.
If you let me. Right?
And he says, and one of the ways to get out of that is the devil's having this confession saying, I can't control the people who think for themselves. But the people who don't think for themselves and let other people think for them, that's the people I intervene. It's about 90%.
So repeat that. That's huge.
It's huge.
Right? That's ownership and taking the driver's seat in your own life. Repeat that. That's awesome.
Yeah, so he's saying, again, he's the negative portion of the atom, or the other side is the opposition, and you can call it God, higher power, etc. But he infiltrates all the empty space and the negative portion of people's mindsets. And that's how he takes control. But he can't control those who think for themselves.
It's just, you take the control away from that negative. And I always say, and I'm sure you guys agree, we can only be in one state. So if you're in gratitude, right, the sorrow can't come in. If you're in sorrow, or if you're in the victim mentality, the gratitude can't come in.
I love gratitude.
Right? And the attitude of gratitude changes it like that, right? When you're real, when it really feels, and that's what that children's hospital does, right? It puts things into perspective that, man, are you kidding me? Right? Are you kidding me? Right? And I used to, before we got on, Veronica remembered me from Nutrition Zone that I had in Vista, and I used to do this all the time, because I give to St. Jude and I give to Make-A-Wish. So they'll send me updates. Well, being in the sports in my store, right? I was like the bartender, the hairdresser, and their therapist, right? Because I got so connected with people, and I knew the ones that would come in, their head down, and everything's horrible. So I started to do this. I would keep the card, right, of the little girl, little boy fighting cancer, right? And hey man, how's it going? Oh, horrible, blah, blah. I go, it could be worse. What do you mean it could be? I just show them the card. And it's interesting. Some people, it would just click them out of it and go, man, you know, you're right. Or that's not right, or that's, you don't understand, and still go deeper in the funk. I didn't care either way. I just, you know, I had to amuse myself a little bit and kind of check them because that's real. That's real, right? There's so many people living would love to have our issues, right? Would love to have our, I love this. So we have some other people typing in and they say, so true, Dave, you have to enjoy your job. I love this. Listen, I love this more than anything actually I've ever done in my life, in my career. I love this, being around entrepreneurs, being around like-minded people, being around that energy is my oxygen.
That's why we started to do this too, because we love that energy of people.
It becomes your oxygen, doesn't it?
It does.
It absolutely becomes your oxygen. Okay, so we had some other people chiming in. Now, when we get done, as you guys know, or if you first time you've been on, we're going to reshare this video, and these guys are going to jump on, interact. If you have questions, once you reshare it, give them your information, and then once we put it up on our YouTube, then you're going to be able to repurpose it and connect with everyone that jumped on. But before we do jump off, anything else you want to share? Because people are watching, man. You got to type it in.
You know, I think, again, we're talking about entrepreneurism, is you have to be willing to be vulnerable. And one person came up to us and always saw how Veronica and I are always together, and most people will say that, like, they never see us apart from each other.
Right.
Well, we love each other's company.
Right.
And he was a young kid, and he asked us, well, what is your secret to a great relationship? And when I first talked to him, I said it was communication. And it's being willing to open up, be honest with somebody, and just talk. Because most people we see in a relationship, their pride gets in the way. They bottle everything in their emotions.
Yeah.
They don't want to say anything, and eventually again, it eats at them on the inside like those termites, right? And then it creates issues. And then later on down in life, but a few months later, I ran into him again, and I told him, you know, the first time I talked to him, I said it was communication, but I realized that learning through how we learn through our relationship as well, it's trust. And if you can build trust with the people you work with, people that you love, and then that's really fulfilling. And if that becomes a hard thing for people, that's, again, it's their stuff that's just coming up. It's resistance because maybe they've had trust issues in the past. Maybe something that's come up, and that issue with trust now translates into your relationships. It translates into working with people like business partners. Maybe you've been screwed over with money or ripped off.
Right. Either the victim mentality or the other side, flip side of this, right? I just saw this on Facebook the other day. I loved it. Is I think actually this girl LJ who just typed in, I think she posted it, and I might butcher this up, but anyway, this is how I remember it. Is if you want to make a liar angry, keep asking them the questions, right? Because so that could be the flip side. So if you know you're not being honest, you know you're not going to create that trust, then that creates a whole nother toxic environment inside your body and then outside your body. Is that?
Yeah.
Would you agree?
And it's okay to let your emotions come out, and it's actually, I say, imperative to make sure you do that. Like Veronica mentioned earlier, you have to do it in a healthy way. Some people try to bottle it down with either alcohol, drugs.
Yes.
Some people want to use some other output to do that, and which creates other issues in their life because it translates. But to actually deal with that pain that they're holding on to, or the issue that's kind of they're trying to push down, that's what needs to come up, and that's when the true healing begins.
And that's the fear barrier.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate fear barrier that people are afraid to face. That's why I call the fear barrier the bully, right? Yeah. It's either going to take your lunch money every day, or you're going to step up and make sure that bully doesn't take your lunch money anymore, right? Because we're either moving forward or moving backwards. And when that bully pushes you back into safety, that might feel okay for a minute, but after that, we're built to evolve, grow, and move forward. So I love that you talked about that and you brought that up. And where can they find you? On social media, your website?
Yeah, so they can find us on our website. It's clearconnect.com.
Okay.
Connect is spelled Kinect. Okay. If you're going on right now, you might not see anything because we're switching servers, so the website's down.
But
so
they can find you on social media.
Social media is facebook.com/clearconnect, and you'll see our Facebook page up in there. You can connect with us there, call the office. You know, if you have any issues that are going on, we can do stuff either in person or over the phone. So
yeah, just reach out.
Just reach out.
If you have any questions, you just want to connect, you just want to whatever that is, you guys are open. I mean, that's what you're all about. I love it. Anything before we jump off?
In my head I was thinking of a quote from, I believe it's Les Brown. He said, don't let other people's opinion become your reality. So what, things that people have told you.
Don't let them label you.
Yeah. So or if they tell you, like you're dumb or this and that, and don't believe it. Or like if you believe it, then it's your reality.
Awesome. And that's so true, because you now that's that story that you're telling yourself because you believe it, whether it's you're a kid or an adult, right? You're for me, I'm not supposed to be here. I didn't graduate high school. I didn't do well. I did this and that. And so it's either your anchor or your propeller. And I'm going to leave it with this. I love this, is as an entrepreneur, right, the darkness is only temporary as long as you keep moving forward. The only time it becomes permanent is when you go back into safety. So I love that. So
I love that.
Now, because we know that your state is everything, here's what we're going to do before we jump off. We're going to do the Monster Motivator Roar.
Oh, I know
right?
Monster Motivator.
I know, we know that. For this. But guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Monster Motivator TV. We are a live stream TV show that comes to you. We want to highlight, promote local businesses, entrepreneurs, people making a difference in their community, right? That's what we want to promote. We're very, very competitive with our pricing. It's free. So we're going to take all the excuses away. If you don't have Wi-Fi, come to our studio in Marietta. And if you know anybody that we could get on Monster Motivator TV, especially if they're afraid, we want to pull them through those fear barriers, right? I find that all the time. And this becomes their therapy. They're so afraid of being on here. And once they realize that their story's not about them, it changes. It just changes their whole everything. So that's why I love this. So keep making it happen. Don't let anything stop you. Reach out to the right people, and you will get the answers, because action is magical. When you keep taking that action, the people and the circumstances start coming into your life to make it happen. So here we go, guys. Keep making it happen, and we are going to put you in the right state. The Monster Motivator Roar. And the sound is as important as the pose. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Ah! Love it. Awesome. Great job. Great job.